Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Post 3 and Depot Street. Truck boy at
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome back to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. It's good to be back here after a little mini bye week, right? I feel rested and ready to go. The Lions are a little rested, getting a little more healthy. It's going to be good because it's a big test this week with the Buffalo Bills come to town. Some are saying this may be a Super Bowl preview. We'll see how that goes. That remains to be seen. Later on in this episode, we're going to feature an interview with Joe DeRosa from Cover One Sports Network. You will be impressed with his football knowledge. Really enjoyed having him on, so I can't wait for you guys to listen to all that. But before we get to the interview and everything, how are you doing, Jacob?
I'm great, man. I'm ready for this game. Top two scoring offenses going head to head.
Yeah.
Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, the over-under, I think, is like 52.5 or something like that. I didn't look this morning to see where it's at. Both of them average over 30 points a game. Yeah, it's could be a shootout. We'll see. Sometimes we say that, and then at the end of it, then it becomes a 14-7 game. But
yeah, right.
We'll see. But I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. And yeah, it's coming up quick here, man. It's gonna be fun. I missed the last two home games, so it's gonna be fun to use my tickets again and go on there and get loud. 425 game. So that'll be good. All right, Jacob, let's get into this.
Just want to review what happened the last time the Bills came to town because it's kind of relevant in what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. So
just real quick, I'm sure pretty much everyone remembers being disappointed on Thanksgiving in the Bills game, but it's relevant, especially with the game that we just had. So last time the Bills came to Detroit, it was Thanksgiving 2022. We had started that year 1-6. We had a 3-game winning streak. It was against the Packers, the Bears, the Giants. So we had a decent shot. Things were starting to turn around for us that year. The Bills were 8-3. It was a decent game for us. It was really, back and forth. The most interesting part is how this game ended. So in this scenario, we were down 25-22. We drove down the field with a 2-minute drill, and we found ourselves 4th and 1 at the 33-yard line. 28 seconds left. We had 2 timeouts, and we kicked the field goal to tie it at 25. We then kicked the ball back to the Bills, and they have 3 timeouts in 20 seconds, and they drive down and kick a field goal and beat us on Thanksgiving. So my question to you, if this exact scenario plays out again this week, would you go for it on 4th and 1 to try to score a touchdown to win the game, or do we play it safe and take the points? Because this time we were down. We were down by 3 this time, and, obviously against the Packers, we were tied. The defense is also much better now. The team is much better now in general, so the odds are probably higher. Not probably. Odds are definitely higher this year than they would have been back then.
You got 2 timeouts, you said, right, in this scenario?
2 timeouts.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell's definitely going for it then, because I think he learns from situations like this. Like, he learns that today's NFL, giving a team 25 seconds or whatever, they could get into field goal position, especially with this offense. I don't think you're going to give the ball back to Josh Allen. I just don't think you're going to do that. So, obviously we're looking at it hindsight now. Yeah, go for it, because we obviously lost that game making the other decision. However, just looking back to just last week, we weren't down, but we did not want to give Jordan Love the ball back for him, a chance for him to get a field goal to tie it back up. So I think that, yeah, you go
Jordan
for
Love
that.
is no Josh Allen.
He is not, but he could throw a deep pass. I think that he's got a pretty good deep pass, and all it takes is that or a PI that, if you don't complete it, you're hoping that you get a PI on someone like Terrion or something like that.
Right.
So I'm not comparing those two, but I mean, it's not like Jordan Love is a pushover either. So I agree. I would go for it. What about you?
Oh, I'm on the fence. It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't think you could be really wrong either way, but it was funny to find out or to look back on the game and realize that they only had 23 seconds when they got the kickoff. They had 23 seconds left and 3 timeouts. And they still, were able to drive down pretty easily on 3 plays.
Yeah. That was a different defense at that time.
Exactly.
I think our defense is better now, especially the secondary. We probably wouldn't let that happen. So I mean, I could see it going the other
In
way.
that regard, yeah, sorry.
With 2 timeouts, plus, I mean, our offense is better than it was 2 years ago too. So I mean, we have a lot more weapons that we can utilize. Better tight end. You got JMO who could take him deep. Amon-Ra was probably just coming into his own in that Buffalo game. Like that, it was that second half of that season that he started to take off. So some of the players might have been the same, but they're just much better. And we're 2 years into this offense. I bet you Dan Campbell trusts his offense much better now than he did at that point.
Yes, it was also, we had a losing record at that point and everything. Things are different now, so just a interesting thing to talk about.
No, that's good. I guess I haven't thought about. I mean, I thought about that game, but I haven't looked into it as depth as you did. That was good, Jacob.
Well, here's another one for you. So the last time we beat the Bills was in 2006. So do you remember who the quarterback was in 2006?
That was that Kidna?
It was before Stafford. It was Kidna.
Yeah.
John Kidna threw a touchdown pass to Roy Williams in this game. Kevin Jones rushed for 127 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
And then we beat this Bills team with JP Losman at quarterback, 17-20.
JP Losman.
That was the last time we beat them. Almost 20 years ago.
We don't play them very often, though.
Exactly. Right.
Let's get on to this. Let's move on to this year's Buffalo team. Impact players, Jacob. Offense. Who you got?
All right. And we got to start with the quarterback, right? Josh Allen, Pro Football Focus ranked number 4 quarterback, NFL Top 100. He's the number 12th player on that list. Just obviously he's the MVP front runner, playing, lights out, just week in, week out. Tight end Dalton Kincaid is ranked number 9 out of 79 tight ends. Running back James Cook is ranked number 19. Their wide receivers, Khalil Shakir, is actually ranked number 20 out of 128 wide receivers. And then Amari Cooper, who came, halfway during the season, he's ranked 54. Also worth mentioning, their left tackle, Deion Dawkins, he was rated number 96 on NFL's Top 100. Pro Football Focus has him rated 38 out of 133. So not overly impressive on Pro Football Focus, but obviously highly regarded in the league, to be an impact player on the offensive line.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it all starts with Josh Allen, right? He's the front runner for the MVP by a long shot right now, especially after the past 2 weeks he's had where he's thrown a touchdown pass, caught a touchdown pass, and rushed for, last game he had 6 touchdowns, rushed for 3 and ran for 3, or passed for 3. Unbelievable. So
he's already got the MVP locked up. There's just no way. I mean, even if it was
really
have a bad couple weeks, Yeah,
he didn't really have to falter, or the team itself would have to falter. But yeah, they've already got the division locked up. They're division winners. They're sitting pretty, or he's sitting pretty in the MVP talk. As far as defense, you got Christian Benford, the cornerback, rated 4th out of 118 cornerbacks. You got Greg Rousseau, edge, defender, 14 on PFF grade. Von Miller on the other edge, 23rd. So, I mean, they have, some rushing off the edge. We've seen this before, like with the Texans. Hopefully Taylor Decker's back in this game, and we'll get through the injury report because that's going to be very important. And Matt Milano's back now. They got their linebacker back. He's not rated on PFF yet just because he probably hasn't logged enough snaps. But, that's a big get for their defense to get Matt Milano back.
Definitely huge impact player. So I'm sure they're excited to have him back.
Yep.
They've already got their playoff spot, their division locked up. They're trying to keep things going, keep everybody healthy, and just, ride it off to the playoffs.
Yep.
Moving on to the Bills season results. As Jason tries to edit this real quick in our document, it's really hard to find good help these days.
It is. I forgot to change the record, but yeah.
Anyway, they're 10-3. I already know that. You don't even have to type it. They're 10-3 right now. There are 3 losses. Obviously, the loss last week to the Rams. They lost at the Rams 44-42. They lost at Baltimore 35-10, and then they lost at Houston 23-10. So they've lost 3 times. All 3 losses were away, and they have to come to Ford Field. So, maybe that gives us a little more odds. Something goes on when they're not at home, not in the comfort of their own fans.
Yeah. No, they're going to be coming into a loud environment. I fully expect that. I'm wondering how much, Buffalo's really not that far away. Not that there's going to be any seats to be had, but I'm wondering how well Buffalo's going to travel.
Well, we're our go-to spot every time they have a snowstorm, right? When they can't travel fast enough, they got to come to Ford Field.
I was going to ask Joe about that. When they have bad snowstorm, they come right to Ford Field. I will have Jacob in my car on the way up there. I am going to have a Buffalo fan in my car. Contemplating make him sit in the trunk, but I think we'll let him sit up there. But our neighbor's going to come. Yeah, our neighbor's coming, and they're not. They have seats somewhere else in the stadium. My buddy Jacob, his name is Jacob as well, different Jacob, and he loves the Lions, but his son loves the Bills, and so he's gonna have his jersey on. I already asked, he's gonna be wearing a jersey, and I said you're gonna have to wear a coat over that while we're walking into the stadium.
Yeah,
I can't be seen with riffraff, but yeah. Now getting back to the Bills, had a tough loss last week, 44-42. It'll be interesting to see how they respond to this. It's not easy going from a loss coming into playing the top NFC team in the league right now. So they got to see if they're up to the challenge. I suspect that they're going to play hard, but hopefully the Lions identify some stuff in the film of why the Rams were so successful offensively.
Yeah, definitely. I'm worth mentioning also the Bills are the only team to beat the Chiefs this year. Even though the Chiefs haven't looked good and have been skating by a whole lot, the Bills were the only one to actually get it done. They also beat the 49ers, who are reeling because of injuries, but still notable win. The Bills are a good team. I mean, year in and year out, they're competing. And when you have Josh Allen, that's just, what you can do a lot of different things.
Yep. Josh Allen makes a lot of things possible in the offense, but Joe in the interview will explain he was very good at explaining why Josh Allen is having a better year. As far as the injury report, Bills are looking pretty healthy. They got 2 starters that did not practice on their defense, Rasul Douglas and Taylor Rapp. Keon Coleman was a full practice. Amari Cooper is a full practice. DeMar Hamlin, full practice. Dalton Kincaid has come back. We already mentioned Matt Milano. And Chris Samuel was another wide receiver that was injured, but he had a full practice. So they're looking pretty healthy. That's good. I want to beat someone at their best. So how about the Lions? We've had some injuries. Jacob, where are we coming in now?
We've got some decent news on our injury front here. Taylor Decker had a full practice. Aleem McNeil, who was in concussion protocol, he got in a full practice. We have limited practices out of Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal. And then the only one that did not practice that's on the injury report is DJ Reader. So we still really want to have DJ back. I think that he's trending up, correct? Have you heard the same thing?
Yeah, he was on the sideline. Like, he didn't practice, but he was with the trainers. But part of me also wonders, we'll know more tomorrow and definitely by Friday. Sometimes they'll give a veteran a rest day on Wednesday. So I'm wondering if they're just giving him some extra time to heal up. So he will be very important to have in this game, DJ Reader. So I am hoping that he is back. Let's talk about the Bills' offensive and defensive rankings. Overall, PFF has them ranked as the 17th team overall, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, right. Timeout. What are we doing, Pro Football Focus?
Yeah.
How is that?
Yeah.
It's things like this that make you question all their other rankings. Like, what metrics are you using where they're 17th overall?
Yeah, I
should double check that. Did you type it wrong?
I could have, man. You know me. I'm not.
You didn't wear your bifocals?
No, man. I don't have bifocals. No. Offense, PFF has them ranked 10th. They are second in points per game scored, 10th in yards per game. That correlates to 12th in passing and 11th in rushing. Well-rounded team, but still, I'm still thinking of why they're 17th ranked overall. Maybe it's because of their defensive numbers, Jacob. What are they on defense?
That'll be the only thing that makes sense. I guess if you do the math, it must average out, right? Pro Football Focus has them rated 24th, tied for 24th on defense, actually. Points scored, though, they are 8th in the league. In terms of yards per game, they're 14th. And that breaks down passing defense, they are 9th, in yards, and rushing defense, they are 19th. So the defense has not been as good as the offense, but, for most of the season, they've been playing good complementary football, not unlike the Lions.
Yeah, well, when you look at their points scored, right, because that's what it comes down to. You need to score more points than the other team. They're 8th in defensive points
Is that
scored.
the goal of football, Jason?
It is. It's simple.
Okay.
And then they're 2nd in points per scored. So they score a lot of points and they don't give up a ton of points. So that's a good way to have a good record. All right. So let's get into our interview with Joe DeRosa, and we'll see you on the flip side. We want to welcome Joe DeRosa from the Cover One Sports Network. He is our Bills expert this week. We're going to learn a lot about this hot team. I mean, they're playing really well. So, Joe, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm excited to talk about this matchup.
Yeah, it's a big one, right? Usually you don't get a lot of these late in the season. Man, these are 2 months.
Mhm.
Some people are talking, this is the Super Bowl preview.
Yeah. I'm careful with that statement only because I feel like anytime I've ever said it out loud, it ends up not happening. And as Lions fans, I'm sure you understand, just given both of our teams' histories, it's so cool to be in that sentence that this could be a Super Bowl matchup. And I'm hoping for it because I think it would be a ton of fun. Just 2 really teams that both deserve a championship. And I was looking forward to this one for a while, and I'm sure you guys were too. It doesn't happen very often. And, last time they matched up, it was super fun and just a really wire-to-wire game. And I'm really, really interested to see how they match up with each other. And that ends up being in the Super Bowl too. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm like, we were talking before we get on here. I'm going to the game. I am just super excited to see what the crowd reaction is going to be. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But before we get started here, Joe, I just have to ask this question to you. How many tables have you jumped through?
0. I do owe my roommates from college. So this is the thing. I do owe my roommates from college a table for me to jump through because, long story short, I wasn't a huge fan of the Josh Allen pick when it was made. I was of the belief that the project would be a failed project. I also did not know ball at all back then. And when I was talking to my roommates, I said, if this man leads us to the playoffs, I have to jump through a table. He did numerous times. I have not jumped through the table yet. So I do still have to do it. So I'm pending 1 table, but for now it is at 0, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm glad that I don't ever have to jump through a table. I don't think I could break the table, but I'm glad I don't have to jump through it.
Well, I got to say too, I over the summer had my first ever back injury. And now I'm a little more scared to jump through the table after that happened. So I'm going to try and figure out a way to do this that still doesn't give me any further damage, while also satisfying the bet. So we'll see how that one goes. And hopefully it goes, not as bad as I would expect it to.
Well, I mean, I don't know the stipulations. You said break a table. I mean, you could take a sledgehammer to that thing and that'd be technically breaking the table, right?
Yeah, that is very true. Sledgehammer. I could just throw it off like a bridge or something. We'll get creative with it. Maybe I'll just jump with a pillow on my back.
There you go.
We didn't lay out the groundwork in that much detail. So
yeah, that's all right. There's a bunch of loopholes, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
First off, how does the loss to the Rams last week affect the Bills team now?
So I want to say that game was a bit of an outlier. I said this on my show last night. I don't mean that in the sense that this Bills defense doesn't have holes, because they do, or that there are flaws with this team that don't exist. They absolutely do. But what I do think was, after the clinch, they go on the road to an NFC West team that desperately needed a win, right? In your conference, it's as competitive. Even in your own division, you have what are likely going to be the first and second wildcard teams in the Vikings and Green Bay. So they're fighting like hell to get that final seed. And I think that what happened was you went as the road team to Sean McVay and co, a very talented offense that was fully healthy, doesn't match up, or you don't match up well with them, and you simply got punched in the mouth. If you watch this game back, extensively, that's exactly what happened. The Rams just manipulated the Bills in every which way, whether it was using misdirection, motion, angles for better blocking, whatever you can think of, they did it. And this game to me is a bigger tell of my hope or concern for a playoff run than the last game, because that really was an outlier game, and they go into this game against the Lions and play comfortably, mitigate you a little bit like some teams have been able to do, although mitigating the Lions is still like 24 points spotted. Then I think, I'd feel a little bit better. But my worry right now is if this game and the same result happens, because the Lions, even though they're not the same team, are very similar in their approach to offense in how they attack defenses. And if the Bills struggle against this matchup just the same as they did with the Rams, that's going to expose a very fatal flaw the Bills have that I just don't think they can overcome in a long playoff run. So to answer that question, I don't think it means much, but this game will mean a lot more if it's a similar result.
Okay.
Good take.
Yeah.
I mean, it was much different from the last two. There's 3 losses for the Bills this year. The first 2 losses, the offense was kind of shut down. It just didn't look like things were working. And then you kind of flip it this time, and Josh Allen was at 6 touchdowns. The offense, was putting points on the board. It just wasn't enough there in the end.
Right. Yeah, their offense got it going really more in the second half. There were a few stalled drives. Ultimately, the difference in the game was the block punt that came on a stalled drive in the first half. So this Bills team now is a bit different than those Ravens and Texans losses team because, one, the Amari Cooper trade. They have a receiver that's good against man coverage that changes the way their passing attack can operate. And also, in that Ravens game, they were missing Teron Johnson and they were missing Terrell Bernard. In the Houston game, they were missing Teron Johnson. And now in this matchup, you have Matt Milano, Teron Johnson, Terrell Bernard. Like, their defense is fully healthy. But again, it's all about the matchup and the scheme they're facing. And I have my concerns, even with the fact that they're healthier now on offense and defense, of, again, a similar result to that Ram. So, yeah, it's weird to see them lose that big after just so many weeks of consistent ball and just playing a really, really good, tight game on both sides.
Yeah, the score was shocking on both ends. I mean, I knew they both could put up points, but yeah, there was, I was wondering on my end, is this going to light a fire under Buffalo, or is this, like you said, the other way is, this, because they got a tough game. The next one is, it could go the other way too, but either way,
it's tough, man. And that is really the tell of this game and why I stress it. Because if you fall apart in this game, after clinching your division, it's good to have the playoff spot, but seeding still matters. And losing a game to a Super Bowl contending team in the Lions, that's not something you want for that clubhouse. So, I said clubhouse because I'm in baseball mode, just the same as football mode right now with winter meetings. But I assume I'm going to assume you guys are Tigers fans. So
that's correct.
Yes. Listen, I'm a Yankee fan, but I admire the comeback after the Flaherty trade for you guys. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. But
no, you're all right.
No, that's okay.
it's a big test for this Bills team mentally too. Because again, if we see a big loss, I do think that would breed some concern for how you finish the season. But the playoff spot is locked up. Seeding will be what it is. Just get healthy, get right before the playoffs, and you still have a chance.
All right. My question is, I already know the answer. Josh Allen's the MVP this year. I know that's, I got to assume that you feel that way. My question is going to be a little different. What's different this year for Josh Allen than it has been in the past? What's clicked for him? Why is it different?
The biggest word is efficiency. And I think a lot of that has to do with Joe Brady and the scheme of this offense compared to years past and them kind of responding to league-wide trends in defense. Because, as many people have just spoken about from our own network and around the national spec, the defenses in the NFL were really trying to change their dynamic to take away explosives downfield. And this Bills offense predicated themselves on that, right? You saw 2020, 2021, a lot of downfield, a lot of air yards, high ADOT, super in-depth passing attack. And what happens is, once you start facing these teams that are now running these two highs and taking those deep halves of the field away more consistently, it kind of begins to stifle your productivity as an explosive team, and you have to pivot from that. And it's not the only thing. There's a lot more that goes into it, but you can look at Kansas City and how they've kind of transitioned offensively and kind of see the model of what the Bills were trying to do, similar to kind of what Detroit's doing, LA's doing, where it's becoming more of, we want to build this thing from our run game up. And for Josh Allen, why I stress efficiency is because that's exactly what this offense is doing. And because their run game this year has been so much better than years past, so physical, so dynamic. James Cook has been excellent, but Ray Davis has been good. Ty Johnson has been good. The run blocking is as physical as ever, and they can go toe-to-toe with so many units. That is putting Josh in less conflict. Not all the time. Sometimes they meet their match and they get into long downs and distances, but it's an offense that changed the dynamic from Josh has to be Superman and go downfield and throw a bunch every game to, we can crack this glass and break emergency Josh out in case we need him. But if we're efficient in our approach, we don't need to put too much on him. And that Superman Josh can just come out in the times where you do need him. Maybe a play is covered. And, a great example of this is that Miami game from week 2, right? They ran the ball extremely well. Miami had no answer. Josh had like 135 yards passing, but the throws he made that he had to make were the elite Josh throws. So now his stats might be not be as voluminous as like years past or like Joe Burrows are right now or other guys, but he's making just efficient plays. He's smart with the football. The turnovers have gone down significantly. He's still making high-level throws all throughout the field. It's just now getting paired with an offense that can complement that ability, and therefore less pressure on him, more opportunity for him to make those key plays and key moments. And you have the stat line you have, and you have the discourse you have. And he, in my eyes, like you said, he's the front runner right now. Do I think he has it locked down? I think he's close. I think a good game against the Lions solidifies it. So it's been fun to see this transition for him, and I think his best ball is ahead of him because this approach to me feels far more sustainable than years past where it was just downfield so much.
Losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, it looked like it was really going to affect the offense negatively, but they are scoring more points per game this year than they have in the past. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's just, I know you already kind of touched on it. Do you think that's just Josh Allen taking the next step? Do you think a weight has been lifted by not having a receiver in his ear demanding targets and being able to just take what the defense is giving him? Obviously it's different now that they got Amari Cooper. At the beginning of the season didn't look right, but, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a mixture of those things. I think the presence of Stephon Diggs did have a lot of pressure because Diggs was a demanding receiver. And that's not me, casting any dispersions on him as much as that's the kind of player he is. He's a fiery guy and he wants the ball, and he said that. And, if we were all receivers that were really good, we'd want the ball too. So I totally get it. I think in that case, though, moving on from Diggs and having a group that Josh is now having to lead versus the years past where Diggs was older than Josh and Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley were older than Josh, and it was kind of a young quarterback with a vet room of receivers. Now it's Josh is leading most of these players. Obviously, Matt Collins is older than him. Matt Collins is Matt Collins. He's a fun guy. I don't think he minds being led by a younger dude. I think these receivers, this offense really in general, this is the dynamic shift where they are turning to Josh and saying, hey, this is your time to lead this team. This is your time to be a leader. The onus is on you. There are no excuses. And in that result, granted, they did need to make that pivot with the Amari Cooper trade because there were struggles against certain defenses and they needed the help. I think Josh has done an excellent job. And I think that more unison, like the everybody eats, I'm sure you two have heard of approach that the Bills are implementing, has kind of, in a sense, created more community in this offense and less pressure, more of a willingness to just do your assignment and get the job done. And, when you have a receiving room that will be willing at any moment to make a pass or get a key block, it just kind of breeds this mentality of like, we're all in this together. No one's above the other, despite obviously different talent levels. And that's probably just translated well to how Josh is playing. And I think Josh has matured as a result of that and gotten to a point where he's just playing, again, efficient, sustainable ball and just taking that role of a leader in stride.
Joe, we got the right guy. You're good with your answers. I want to know about Von Miller. Von Miller has only been in for 25 snaps last week. Is that typical for him? I mean, is that what they're limiting his snaps to just get the most production? Or is that something we might see him more this week in Detroit?
So if you see him more, it won't be by a significant. He at this point in his career has become a bit of a pass rush specialist. It's not that he doesn't get involved in run defense at all, but his bread and butter right now is just being a true pass rush threat. And the problem with the last game was in the limited amounts of time he got on the field, he was good, but he wasn't getting his opportunity to be a true pass rush threat because they were just moving the ball so well. In this game, I would expect the amount of Von Miller snaps to correlate to if the Buffalo Bills defense is stopping the Lions rushing attack. Because if they're not, and you guys keep ending up in like second and three, or like, 3rd and 2, or just really short downs and distances, it mitigates the threat of the Bills D line that is actually good, which is Von Miller and Greg Rousseau. And I pulled up the stat, but when you go to all qualifying edge rushers in the NFL right now that are at least 20% of total snaps for edge rushers, Von Miller is currently sitting at 17th in pass rush productivity, which is PFF stat that basically measures multiple metrics for pass rushing, whether it's pressures generated, sacks, like really just how effective you are on the edge. Von Miller is still an effective edge rusher, as well as Greg Rousseau. And if they are in the opportunity to rush Goff and actually send pressure consistently in their 4-man packages, because they're mostly a 4-man rush team, then I think you'll see an uptick in that count and you'll see more. But my long-winded answer to your question is, yes, that is a common thing with him. He is more of a pass rush specialist now with some run defense snaps if they need him.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one then. Kind of goes with what you were saying. How do you think the Buffalo defense is going to attack the Lions offense?
Oh, man. Hope, pray, get on their knees and beg them to have Gibbs and Montgomery be inactive for a game and then just work with that. But listen, this Lions offense is a freaking juggernaut. They're so good. And what makes them good is the fact that they can pass off their run, which is so effective, but also the ability to disguise all of these things at any time. And for a Bills defense that just got pantsed by the Rams for doing this exact same thing, I am concerned with how they would match up. But what I will say is, I think the Bills this past game did a bit more of stacking the box in an effort to try and mitigate the space that you could create from the downfield blocking. Because the thing is, with like the Rams are so good at taking the appropriate angles that if you give them that space and don't stack the box, all of a sudden, it's one tick too late and you can't get a proper lane and you get pushed out of the way. I think they're going to do that again and try to load the box up and maybe crash a safety down and just try to have as many options as possible, because I think Gibbs and Montgomery are physical and explosive. Even though one excels in one more than the other, they both have those traits. So it's going to be trying to keep the close quarters nature of this defense, or I should say, be a bit more close quarters where you're just closer to the line and trying to defend anything up the middle or the perimeter. But again, it's on this defensive line. And I talked about the pass rushers, but the real struggle for the Buffalo Bills has been their interior defensive line. In 2022, when we played each other, that Ed Oliver game is what we call it, because Ed Oliver was just a single game wrecking crew. But this year, there's been a weird regression for him. And it's hard to explain why. My assumption is because the one tech play next to him hasn't been consistent enough. Also, Ed started the year a little bit banged up and had to get into his own, and I think that slowed him down. The Bills' defensive line has to penetrate. They have to be able to get through. They have to be able to maintain integrity on the interior and be able to hold on double teams, because this Lions offensive line is a stellar physical unit that just complements this offense further. If they get pushed back, it's going to make things infinitely more difficult for the very talented linebacker room, which, by the way, I think you could expect to see some 3 linebacker sets. We're more of a base nickel, and we keep Teron Johnson out there. I think you could expect to see some 4-3 where you got Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, and Dorian Williams all trying to sell out to stop the run. And if they can, then I think that plays into the Bills' strength, which is their pass defense. They have a great cornerback room. Granted, Russell Douglas might not play. I think they're a very tight-knit secondary with good communication and good disguising. So really, it's stop the run up front. If you can, then great. Jared Goff's going to have to hold the ball, which is how they'll generate sacks, because, again, they're a 4-man pressure team. Occasional blitzing, maybe some run blitzing. But if you can't get any push with the interior defensive line in the front, I think it's going to be a struggle for the Bills defense. So I see them attacking with run blitzes, pass blitzes, and really just heavier boxes than they usually run.
All right. How about flip that? How is the Bills offense going to attack the Lions defense?
So this Bills offense is similar to, like, again, those offenses I mentioned before, like the Lions, like the Rams. Their run game is create. It's what helps them get into the game script they want to get into and what helps them be multiple. That Rams game, the amount that they threw in that game was the most I've seen them throw in weeks. And it's not that they don't, it's just that they had to because game script got away from them. But if the Bills are able to run on the Lions, which I know the Lions are dealing with a pretty big swath of injuries in their front seven. I know your interior D-line is banged up. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, which as a football fan, it pains me that he isn't on the field because I love Hutchinson. I think he's so talented, and I hope he heals up for you guys because he's an exceptional player. But him, the interior defensive line, the linebackers are banged up. And for that reason, I think they're going to test the waters with their ground game early and often. Inside perimeter runs with James Cook, trying to get pushed with the offensive line. The thing about this Bills offensive line is, even though I have questions about it in pass pro, they can run block their tails off. They are very physical. Spencer Brown, Osiris Torrance, Deion Dawkins, McGovern, even though it's kind of inconsistent, David Edwards, they're all very good run blocking linemen. They're going to try and get and establish their run game on the ground early. And if they can, that is how the Bills control this game. Because then what they'll do is they're going to show you run looks and throw out of them just like the Lions do. They'll motion and try to create space and leverage with that. They'll try to run play action, even though I don't think they do it enough. It all starts with that run game, so I expect them to give a healthy dose of James Cook. If the run game gets shut down on our end, a similar game to the Rams where they try to throw, which is exactly what the Lions want, because that secondary is very talented, very difficult to defend, or very difficult to attack, very disciplined. Aaron Glenn has done a phenomenal job with that unit, so they got to run. And they run well. I think that's going to open things up for Josh. It's going to open things up in the middle of the field. The Lions are one of the heaviest stack box teams in the league, so if you can get behind them at the line of scrimmage and get good downhill push with this physical line, I think you have a chance to really control the time of possession and generate some opportunity. So all in all, I think this is going to be a shootout, guys. I really do, but it's a matter of who blinks first and who stops what first. And if you guys take this running game from the Bills away, I'm not saying we can't move the ball. I'm not saying we can't score, but it's a higher hill. It's more of an uphill battle for the Bills at that spot than the Lions.
I have a question I want your outsider perspective on, number one, the going forward on fourth down at the end of the game when the game's tied. I don't know if you were watching the Green Bay game last week.
Green Bay game? Yep.
Went. It's a national game, so I wasn't sure if you're watching. What is your personal opinion on that? And then I have a follow-up question, just like the outsider opinion of Dan Campbell as a coach. I just want to have what your thoughts on that is.
Yeah. The fourth down call, it was a 4th and 1, right?
4th and 1, tie ball game. It's basically we could kick the field goal. There's 45 seconds left. So it's either we kick the field goal, go up, but that, we went for it and we obviously won the game because of that. I'm just wondering what you're like, just out, football perspective. Obviously, you're very intelligent in football. I'm just wondering what your opinion on that is.
I thought it was the move. And I think the percentage favored it. My thing is, when you're at that spot in the game, it's kick a field goal and play it safe and hope you win it and put the hands in your defense, or let's go for the throat, right? Now, if you didn't get it, yes, they would have had an opportunity, although I think your defense probably could have stand tall because also you were very close to the goal line. I like the call. I liked going for it. I like going for the win. And that is just Dan Campbell's philosophy, which I really like. I think he is an aggressive guy. I think he's always willing to roll the dice, but he has so much faith in that unit that he coaches that he's going to let them get their shine and get their chance. Do I think times it's too much? Sometimes. And earlier in that game, when you were on your own side of the field and he went for it, I was like, Dan, we can punt. It's okay. This time it's okay. I just don't think this is the right move, and ultimately it led to a Packers touchdown. That's the kind of thing, as well as like that San Francisco NFC Championship game where I'm like, I love the aggression. I love going for it. And most times he's right, and you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I think he can just fine tune it a smidge where he just like, he wants to believe in his guys, but like, let's also keep the situational football in mind here too. He'd be, as far as a game managing coach, like one of the best in the league. I already think he is, but even further so. But I love it. I think he's awesome. I think what he's done for this franchise, the city. I mean, I went to the NFL draft this year, right? And I was there with Cover One and we checked it out, and I had a great time. I loved downtown Detroit. It was so much fun. But the buzz that this organization has right now, I saw Lions jerseys everywhere. Everywhere. I was at some diner. I don't even remember the road. I don't remember the name, but there were like these 5 dudes that walked in with Lions jerseys, and I loved every bit of it. They were so hyped up, like so ready for this draft. And like what Campbell brings as a coach, I think has just resonated with the team, but that city, and it's just instilled so much hope and confidence, and they're kicking butt and winning games so handedly. They literally sent the Jaguars basically to relegation. It was like unbelievable what they did to them. Like, they are so much fun, and that all starts with Dan Campbell. And I'm a huge fan of him as a coach. I'm a huge fan of how he galvanizes the locker room, how he gets behind his players. And I love the decisions. I love the 4th down decision in that game. My only gripe is just sometimes I think it's the wrong time to go for it on 4th down, especially if it's not the clear-cut gimme that you could possibly get with your running. So you guys should be very happy with him. I think he is the coach that can get you over the hump and lead you to a Super Bowl. You know, there's a lot of discourse around our coach right now that has been not fun to be a part of because like the end of decision making and it's whatever. Like Dan Campbell, I hope he doesn't ever have that discourse around him because he's such a likable guy and he's doing such a great job. So I'm really excited for the future of the Detroit Lions, man. It's a fun time to be a fan for you guys. Everything's working right now, and if it can't be us, I hope it's you.
Appreciate
You
that.
just want to be back on the show again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, boys.
All right. We got one last question, Jacob. Why don't you hit him up with that?
All right. Last question. What are your predictions for the game? So just any kind of prediction. It doesn't have to be a final score. Could be anything at all. Just something that you think is going to happen.
Ooh.
If you can predict the future, what do you think?
If I had to be Joe Stradamus for you guys, let's see. I would say I think that this is going to be a shootout. I'll give you that one. Like I said before, I just foresee it as I could easily see this game hitting like the high 30s or even just like one team wins like 31-20 or something along those lines. Kind of similar to our last matchup. This is a defense that just got pantsed by a very similar style of offense. I expect adjustments to be, but adjustments doesn't offset talent deficiency. So I think that this rushing attack is going to have a field day with this Bills interior D-line. You guys like running in between the tackles. I know David Montgomery is a bruiser. He can get those extra yards. I expect the Lions to really just hammer that unit until they can run play action off of it and give Jared Goff just that outlet to hit the middle of the field. So it's a matter of this Bills offense can match, and they can match with anybody. And this is the most healthy that they're going to be, by the way, because they're going to get Keon Coleman back. They're getting Dalton Kincaid back. O-line's healthy. Running backs are healthy. They got everybody now. So it's all hands on deck for a Super Bowl preview. I expect this game to be a shootout. I think, I won't give you a score prediction. I follow one of the guys on our network has a creed that you shouldn't predict this, or that he doesn't predict the score. I won't do it, but I do expect a high scoring game. I think both offenses are going to be firing. I think we know what this matchup means for both teams, even if it's not an interconference game. So something to the tune of like the higher 30s or 30-20 something is where I expect this game going. I hope I'm wrong in the sense that it's an easy win for us, but that is impossible with the Detroit Lions. I have too much respect to ever predict that could ever be a case for a team like the Lions this year. So high scoring, shootout, these quarterbacks are going to be doing, but I think really it's the running games that are doing. I think there's going to be a lot of success on the ground for both.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Joe, for coming out. Why don't you tell the listeners where they could find your stuff?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun, and, excited to see the future of this show and excited for the future of the Detroit Lions. And I say that because you're not in the AFC, so I can root for you. You can find me on Twitter at show_DeRosa. I have a show on Cover One Sports Network, our YouTube channel, Cover One. And my show is called Under Review, which goes live every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm also, again, on Blue Sky Social at joederosa.bsky.social. And as for the network, we encourage any Lions fans, any fans of this show, sports fans in general, come check us out if you're interested in learning more about another team. We have some great content creators on our network. Our guys go live with film room segments and other various discussion shows that we have. Video content, written content, Cover One. We're on all social media platforms. So check us out. It's a good time. We have a lot of fun over there. And again, guys, thank you so much. I had a blast. I appreciate you letting me be on the show.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on and spend your time with us. I did visit your under review show after we had agreed to be on the show, and I was like, I got to check this guy out, and thoroughly impressed with the energy and just everything. So if you want to learn more about the Bills this week, jump on over to that channel because you will learn more than what we could offer in this 30-minute segment. So thank you again, Joe.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Joe's a good guy. That was a fun interview. Jacob was easy on him with the questions, so maybe he'll come back.
He was cool. Good to talk to.
Keys to victory. What you got?
All right. Number one key to victory is to slow down Josh Allen, right? I mean, that should be everybody that looks at Buffalo. That's the key. That's their only key to victory. Their main one is just let him run the offense, let him work his magic, and we need to stop that, right? I really wish we could find a way to take away his scrambling ability, but that's just generally not possible when you play man defense as much as we do. We could maybe try to have a linebacker spy him, but that's going to be tough to pull off. If we successfully slow Josh Allen down, then we win this game, right? We're getting guys back on defense. Hopefully things are going to mesh a little better than they did last week, but that's what it comes down to. The number one key is just having the defense come up with enough stops and slow down Josh Allen enough that we can outscore them and win the time of possession in turn, right?
Yep. So of course, we need to somehow corral Josh Allen, but my thing is we just need to control the rush game on both ends. We need to stop their rush game, and we need to be able to run the ball ourselves, control the clock, like you just said, get time of possession, and then don't allow them to run the ball. And so they have to get more predictable passing situations and where we can have a better chance of success. Josh Allen can be good in either situation, but I'd rather have a chance where he has to pass, and I can trust our secondary enough to either come up with a stop or come up with a pick or something.
Definitely. I have that in my keys also. Just to speak on what you said, don't give up on the run. Last week we stuck to the run. It hadn't been working as successfully as it usually does for us, but we kept grinding. We kept going. I think Gibbs had 14 carries, Monty had 15, or vice versa. They both had, a decent amount of carries. The week before that against the Bears, we killed it in the first half, and then we completely went away from the run in the second half, and that kind of allowed the Bears to come back. I think we're going to find success running the football. We just have to make sure that we don't give up on that and we keep pounding.
Yeah, that's one thing that could keep it from being a shootout, right? Is if we're running the ball really well and just trying to control the clock, and then we just have to get some stops. But that's if we can get some stops against this other offense. They're talented over there. One thing that I'm hoping that we could do, and what's going to be a key to victory, is getting pressure with just 4. Josh Allen kills it against the blitz. So we need to be able to just get pressure with 4, which honestly we've been able to do. Our success rate of getting pressure is better with 4 than it is with the blitz. So hopefully that continues this week. Get Zadarius in there. We got some big ends that can tackle Josh Allen, because it takes a big man to. Josh Allen's a load.
No comment on that. No, you're right. You got to be able to do it with 4, because if we do send a 5th person, you saw it last week with Jordan Love, and you see it a lot with Josh Allen. If that 5th person comes and you leave that lane open, he's not going to hesitate to just take off wherever you came from and find that hole anyway. He's not going to, in years past, maybe he dances around a little bit too long and forces a ball up. This year, he's not doing that at all. If you're going to bring an extra person, if you don't find him and hit him right away, he's taking that lane and he's going to scramble and probably get 5 to 10 yards out of it at least. So, that was spot on. You got to be able to rush 4. We have to be able to get home and actually, pressure him and make him throw the ball in these situations where he's being pressured and not be able to just scramble out.
Yep. And I think with going with the rushing just 4 is to maintain the integrity and do not, collapse behind Josh Allen and allow him a lane to run out front. Because if we get him in those 3rd and long situations, we don't want to. So demoralizing if they rush and get a first down on like 3rd and 8. What's going to happen in this game? I guarantee it's going to happen 2 or 3 times. He's going to do that. But we're going to be able to have to shut down a drive at some time and not let him rush out. And you could do that by having rush integrity, staying in your lanes, try not to get rushed past Josh Allen where he's got a lane to scoot up. Hopefully Aleem is back and DJ Reader, and they get the pressure up front and can force him into a mistake or two, or just to throw the ball away or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about having people on defense that know the defense and have been around for a while, even having Pasco back. But the linebackers, you got to know the defense and know what we're doing here and not over pursue or not get caught in the wrong spot. Because with a team like this, an offense like this, they're going to find the holes.
Yep. That is true. And we're going to have to be able to shut their run game down. So that's going to be that's going to be a key to victory. And it's a good thing that's what we need DJ Reader back. We were able to keep the run game pretty in check with the Packers, but they weren't as disciplined with it. I don't feel like in both games to stick with the run game like I think Buffalo can be.
Yes. I mean, they've got their own kind of thunder and lightning thing going on with James Cook and Ray Davis out of Kentucky. I mean, they're both decent running backs, so I won't say they're as good as Gibbs and Montgomery, but I mean, they're good running backs.
No, and Buffalo's disciplined enough to stick with it too. So that's key. Like what you're saying about last week, we stuck with the run, even though it wasn't as successful as it usually is. I mean, you have to keep the defense honest, and that's one thing you could do is just keep rushing it. Another player that I don't know if this is the key to victory or just watch out is Shakir is a menace from the slot. He is going to be a tough challenge for Amik. So that's going to be a matchup to watch. The Amik on Shakir, and hopefully Amik's played well this year. I'm just hoping that he's going to have to play at a really high level this week to be able to stop him.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason that Shakir is so successful, though, too, is that, these plays that tend to go on a little bit longer, a few extra seconds, when the route's over, and that's tough to guard. When the route's done, you check down and then, you hit a little juke route, and it's just you and the cornerback out there. There's no way for the corner to know which way you're going. And Josh Allen, has been able to find him and look for him when he's doing these scramble drills. So, yeah, I mean, I have faith in Amik. We just have to, it's tough for anybody to try to play defense on that when it's just you two in the open field. And for Amik's credit, I don't believe, he doesn't get pass interference calls or anything like that. He might give up the play, but he's not, not being penalized as high. I guess not being as grabby as some of the other cornerbacks, which is a good and a bad thing.
Yep. One other thing I want to be aware of here is that the Bills use zone defense the fifth most in this league. What's awesome is that Goff destroys zone coverage. He's one of the best in the league at destroying zone coverage. So that if the Bills stick with that, that could be a huge advantage for the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, if they're playing zone and they're playing off, I think we're going to have a kind of situation like we did against the Seahawks where it's going to take 3-4 yards before you even touch our running backs when we're coming up out of the holes. They're going to have to crash down, and, when they crash down, that's when we try to find J-Mo, running across. That's what offense works. When it's firing on all cylinders, we're tough to stop, It's kind of why this is probably one of those shootout games. I hope it's not. I hope we control it, and I hope I'd be much more comfortable with a 20-14 or something like that rather than 42-44.
Yeah, I'm expecting to have no voice on Monday because we'll be so loud cheering on defense, and then I think there'll be big plays to be super happy about. So before the season started, I didn't think Buffalo was going to be playing as well as I had concerns about them losing Stephon Diggs and all that going in, but this has turned out to be probably the top game that we're going to have at Ford Field this year. It's as far as I guess, I know the division games are always hard, always hyped, but this is going to be game of the week, 425. CBS is sending their whole crew down for the game. I mean, this is a huge game.
Right. That's a marquee matchup. And just to go over, the Bills have only lost 3 games this year, but they've lost in different ways. So the first loss that they had was against the Ravens, 35-10. And Josh Allen had 180 pass yards, 21 rush yards, and no touchdowns. They held James Cook to 39 yards. So that was just, one of those ugly games, not unlike what happened, when we played the Ravens, where it was just like nothing was going right and they kind of just caught us. Then they lose the Houston Texans 23-20. Josh Allen only completes 9 passes in that game. Can you believe that that's possible? They have a game where Josh Allen completes 9 passes.
Wow.
For whatever reason, they just couldn't get it going. But then, they have a winning streak. And then this last loss was not like the other two at all. Josh Allen, you already said, he had 6 touchdowns, 342 passing yards, 82 rushing yards. I had him on my fantasy team, so I was okay with it. Yeah, so I mean, when you look at the keys to victory, how to beat the Bills, it seems like, obviously shutting down the offense is the main one, but if we have to outscore them, we'll outscore them, right? I mean, we can win any way possible.
Yeah. It'll be set up, however. I think I'm not sure how this game's going to go, to be honest with you, because I really feel like we're going to be rushing the ball. So I don't know how. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm still undecided. If it goes the way the Lions go, it's not going to be as high scoring as their game last week, both the Lions-Packers game and the Bills-Rams game. I think the Lions would rather play a 24-20 type game, but we'll see. If we have to outscore them, I have faith that the Lions offense is going to do it.
Right.
All right.
Real quick, over-under, I think, is at 53. If the over-under is at 53 right now, are you leaning over or under?
I'm going to go under. I'll go under. What about you? You're going to lean over?
Actually, agree. Because just generally it seems like these two teams and the fireworks and the offenses and everything, it just tends to seem to be what happened. It doesn't ever turn out that way. And hopefully that is because, we're running the ball effectively and, running down, there's just not as much time for these big plays. But yeah, I also would go under.
Yep. Yeah. But I won't be surprised if it's over. But yeah, I tend to always go under because, like you said, anytime you think that the game's going to go one way, it zags. But all right, Jacob, Gibbs and Monty, you won last week. So I picked Gibbs and gave you Monty, and you got that. So who are you going with this week?
It's always a toss-up, but it's always a fun toss-up, right? I think Montgomery's outrushed Gibbs for the last 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Gibbs always has the potential to break one open. I'm gonna say Montgomery again. I'm gonna take Monty.
You're gonna take Monty. Well, all right. I get Gibbs. All right. Well, either way, I'll be rooting for him. Either way. All right, Jacob. All right, let's get into grit picks.
Grit picks.
All right, I'm gonna let you go through them because you bested me again. So go ahead.
Again, week after week after week after week.
I know.
All right. Obviously, we didn't pick Thursday Night Football Packers at Lions. We don't ever pick the Lions games. We both would have been right there anyway. Chargers at Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. We both picked the Chargers. Yet again, the Chiefs, by the skin of their teeth, got it done at the end of the game. That was actually a pretty good football game. So we both got that one wrong. Monday Night Football, Bengals at Cowboys. I said the Bengals. You thought the Cowboys were going to get it done. I do want to say to your credit, you made a point of saying that you thought that Rico Dowdle was going to have a good game, that he was going to run over the Bengals, and he actually really did. He had a great game, but muff punt there at the end, really weird situation. The Bengals score a touchdown late, and they end up beating the Cowboys. So that brings our standings right now. I am 28-12, and you are 24-16. Bringing up the rear.
That is pretty bad. Yeah. What
they got 4 games this week, though.
I know. What is it with the Cowboys and blocking kicks and then touching the ball? And who touched that ball, Jacob? Who's the one that touched it?
Arwariye, the former Lion.
I want you to say it because I could never say his name. Amani touched the
Amani
ball.
Arwariye.
Oh, man. Good.
I feel, you feel bad for him. Former Lion. I still want him to have success and everything, so it's tough.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020. You should have let the ball go. I don't know if that was something where you didn't know the rule, or I mean, the ball's there, it bounces. It's just a really bad attempt at it. I don't know.
I think it's a stupid rule.
At the same time, it was not his fault that they gave up a deep touchdown. I mean, it wasn't even a deep touchdown. It was a short pass to Jamar Chase, and then the Cowboys just whiffed on it, and then he ran all the way. So you can't blame him for that.
No. All right, Jacob, let's get into this week's games. Yeah, there's 2 Monday Nighters this week, so we got 4 games to pick. First game is Rams at 49ers. Who you got in this one?
It's going to be a good game, right? Because the 49ers can't afford to lose again. If they want to win the NFC West, they've got to win these games. The Rams obviously coming off a huge win against the Bills. The 49ers coming off a huge win, albeit far less impressive, against the Bears. I think it's going to be a good game. I am going to pick the Rams, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Rams keep it rolling. They are the way the Rams are playing. I don't know if I want to play them in the playoffs again.
Yeah, right.
I'm hoping that we avoid that and just the whole Stafford thing. I just don't want to do it again.
Yeah, right. I know.
The next game is going to be an important game for us just because of division. Packers and Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks on this, although that's another team. Seahawks, they always seem to have the Lions numbers. I know we took them out this year, but chance of playing them in the playoffs, I would like to avoid them, but I think the Seahawks are going to beat the Packers. Packers are going to lose again.
You can't avoid everybody in the playoffs, Jason. We have to beat somebody.
Nope. Everyone's going to just drop dead.
All right. Yeah. Packers 3-point favorites at Seattle. I'm going to try some reverse psychology here, and I'm going to pick the Packers to win.
Right.
I've picked them to lose the last couple times in our grit picks, and every time I pick them to lose, they win. So I'm going to try something different here. I still want them to lose, but I'm going to pick them to win. You know, the Seahawks are in first place right now. They need to keep winning to lock up the division. And the Packers have a better record than the Seahawks, and they're at like 95% odds at making the playoffs. So maybe the Seahawks have more riding on that one, plus they're at home. Hoping for a Seahawks win, but my grit pick here is going to be Packers.
All right.
Put some bad juju on Green Bay.
NFC North is being represented well. Lions have the game of the week at 4:25. Packers at Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. And Monday Night Football, it's Bears at Vikings. Who are you taking in this one, Jacob?
I mean, how funny, how great would it be if the Bears actually pulled that game out, right? I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously, Vikings at home, climate-controlled dome. The Vikings have a better team. The Vikings are going to win the game.
Yeah, I don't have guts to do the reverse psychology thing that you did, but I would love to see the Bears win this thing. But I do think that the Vikings are going to keep the pressure on the Lions and win this game. And in a game that probably most of America doesn't care about, and it's a second Monday Night Football game, Falcons at Raiders. I'm going to go with Falcons in this game just because who are the Raiders going to have at quarterback in this one?
That would actually be the reason that you might pick the Raiders, right? The Falcons are 4-point favorites at Las Vegas, but the Raiders are actually going to turn to Desmond Ridder, the former Falcon quarterback. The Raiders are just taking it week by week, right? I mean, the Falcons have had a disappointing year, but they're still in the playoff race because, you know, the NFC South is wide open still. So the Falcons have to be taking it way more serious than the Raiders are. You know, obviously, I'm sure Desmond Ridder just wants to light them up and wants to have the game of his life, but I don't see that happening. I definitely think the Falcons are going to win this game.
All right. We all the same except for the Packers and Seahawks game. So at most I can gain one game.
And that's the same at heart, but I hope you gain one on me there.
All right. Let's move into the Grit Guarantee.
It's time for the Grit Guarantee.
I could start off here. I am going with Josh Allen is going to be responsible for 2 turnovers. It could be a fumble, 2 interceptions, somewhere, just 2 turnovers. That's Josh Allen's going to cough it up somehow. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's reality. I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I'm going to go with.
That's actually almost, you went a little bit extra with it, but my great guarantee is going to be that we're going to get an interception this week.
All right.
Not calling who, but, you know, it's been almost a month since we had a pick. I know the defense is hungry for it. And this is a game where turnovers like that's going to be crucial. So I feel like somebody's going to get one. But if I'm adding the second one to be different from you, I'm going to say that one of our running backs catches a touchdown pass.
Oh, you want okay? Are you
That's
adding
going
that
to
one
be
on?
no, that's just going to be a bonus just between me and you. My official great guarantee is going to be the interception.
All right, I like it. You're going with
We
two. I
couldn't both
went
have
with
the
two a
same thing.
couple
I got to
times.
have two.
All right, I went with two a couple times. So yeah, that's cool. This game is going to be an exciting game all the way through. I'm looking for the energy to be up in Ford Field from the get go, starting at 4:25. People will be. I don't think it's going to be terribly cold, so they'll be out tailgating. People will be ready for this game, and it's going to be fun.
Definitely. I mean, this is, we got this game at home, next two are away, and then what's shaping up to be a big one at home against the Vikings after that. So this is the
it'll
last
be
AFC game we have. So the stakes only go up from here. So it'd be nice to
Yes.
get this victory.
Yeah, because not to get too far ahead of things, I get the Bears are the Bears, but they seem to play us tough every time. And then depending on what the weather in that game, it'll be.
Right.
I like we're built to play in cold weather though, with our offensive line and our running back, so that doesn't phase me a little bit. But the Bears always play us tough. Just would be really nice. Dick Campbell said that he likes having the pressure of all the teams behind us winning because it keeps us the edge with the Lions. They can't let their guard down, which is right because he said this is playoff football essentially now. I mean, we're in the playoffs, but seeding and all that stuff. Because if we slip a little bit, you go from being the number 1 seed or all the way down to the 5th seed because all of a sudden you got the Vikings right on our tail. If they were to win the division, we'd fall all the way down to the 5th, and then trying to get a home game after that, it's not going to happen.
Right. No, we want the one. We want the bye.
Yes. Yep. Give Alex another week to rest up and be, ready to play. And who knows who else can come back at that point. But yeah, let's say they do get the number 1 seed locked up, Jacob. Do you think in week 18 that they rest any of their starters if everything's locked up by then?
I actually think that they might, or they might even treat it as like a preseason game where we let them dress, we let them get a little bit of work out there, and then let Hendon Hooker take the second half or something like that.
Yeah, I think Dan would play the starters for at least
You
the
still want to
half.
prepare, right? You still want to prepare and go into the same, mindset, prep, get all that ready just like you would week in, week out. I don't think because at that point, then you'd have back to back where you'd have weeks of them not playing, not prepping the same. Like, you don't want to get caught sleeping, the first game back, which I don't think we will, but.
No, but you want to stay on top of your game. So yeah, for that reason alone, I don't think that they would rest them for the whole game. They get them out there, but also you can't rest everybody. You only have a 53-man roster, so you're going to have to play players. So, I mean, we were in a similar situation last year with the game against the Vikings at the end. The year didn't mean that much. We already had the division locked up. We were locked in our seed. And then Laporta got hurt, and then Khalif went down and got injured too. So, but Khalif's I know he's injured right now, but if he's just the type of guy that's going to have to play regardless because he's
right, get more playing time. Yeah,
right. He'll just get more. So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind that you can't just rest everybody. You can't do that. So, but anything else?
No, man, I'm ready for it.
Where are you going to be when this? Are you going to be at home watching the game, or are you going out, or what's the deal?
We'll see. We are going to Frankenmuth that morning, so I'm going to be hours away. I might be watching on my phone for the whole game. I don't know.
Is Deanna going to drive home and you'll be in the passenger seat watching
the game? Yeah, right. If we're late.
Yeah, that's how I usually. So Lions games, I always drive to the game, and then Sarah drives home because if it's a 1:00 game, the boys and I are watching Red Zone on our phones on the way home.
Yeah.
And then or we're watching Lions highlights or whatever. We're doing something with football on the way home. So Sarah always drives home, and I always drive there. So yeah, you need to work that out right now, Jacob and Kev. You drive to Frankenmuth, and you make sure Deanna drives back.
Right.
All right.
Oh, one way or another, I'm watching the game.
That's right. Well, I'll see Deanna on Saturday, so I'll make sure to tell her that's what's going
Yeah,
on.
right.
All right, man. All right. For Jacob, again, big thanks to Joe DeRosa for joining from Cover One Sports Network. Awesome guest. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm Jason. Let's go, Lions.